Now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that makes pocket billiards so fascinating is the fact that you can use science to figure out certain shots. These little dots on the table are called diamonds, and they're not for decoration. They divide the table equally all the way around. The reason they're called diamonds, in the old days, they were made the shape of a diamond. Now most of them are round, but they're still called diamonds. So we're going to start by showing you how to utilize the diamonds to figure out certain shots. In the game of 9-ball, you must hit the smallest ball first. If you don't, that's a foul. So it's very pertinent that you learn to kick at balls. A kick shot, of course, as we mentioned previously, is when you hit the cushion first. Either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 cushions. I'm blocked from the 1 ball by the 15. The 1 ball is the ball I want to hit. So what you do is make an imaginary line that runs through the center of the 1 ball and the cue ball, from the center to the center. And you pick a point halfway between the 1 ball and the cue ball. In this case, it would be right here. Then you go parallel across the table, right over there. You keep your eye on that point, because that tells you exactly where you need to hit in order to hit the 1 ball. Okay? So there we hit the 1. Now, let's say that for some reason or another we needed to go the long way down there. I've got the same shot. Make an imaginary point, imaginary line, from the middle of the 1 to the middle of the cue ball. Find the middle point of that line, which would be right here again. Make a parallel line. By parallel, I'm talking about parallel with a long cushion. And see where that's pointing down there. It's about an inch to the right side of that first diamond. So I'm going to keep my eye on that point and aim directly at that point there, and that should hit the 1 ball. There, we clipped it. We clipped the 1 right before we hit the 15. Once again, to review, this is the object ball, this is the cue ball. You make an equal and opposite distance from the object ball, which would be point in the pocket. You make an imaginary line that runs from in through the midpoint between the cue ball and the object ball. And you simply aim parallel to that line. That gives you your contact point on the cushion to kick into the object ball in the opposite pocket. Now this is another example of the same system. However, this time the object ball is farther away from the pocket. Here, this is your cue ball. So you make an imaginary line equal and opposite to the object ball that you wish to hit. Then you make an imaginary line to the midpoint between the cue ball and the object ball. Once again, it's simply using your imagination to parallel that particular line. This is your contact point, and then it's going to rebound and hit the object ball. This is another example going a different direction. Here's your cue ball, your object ball. If you want to kick at the object ball from this direction, which would be the short way rather than the long way, then you would make your equal and opposite line from the object ball. Find your midpoint then between the cue ball and the object ball, and then sight parallel to that line, and this gives you your contact point to hit the object ball. Now, one other system for a 1 cushion kick that I like to show you is what we call the imaginary table system. What you do is to imagine a table that lies right at the edge of the table you're shooting on. The only difference is, instead of the table starting here at the edge and going all the way out, it would start inside the cushion, right here. And then you picture the same imaginary table. Now, if I had the one ball here and I'm blocked and that's the ball I need to hit, that's halfway between the two pockets. So I would picture an imaginary table starting here, going out 4.5 feet, 4.5 by 9, you see, 4.5 feet. And I would picture this ball being halfway between the imaginary pocket and the other pocket on the other side. So, as you can see, this is about 2 diamonds away from this pocket. So all you would do is to figure 2 diamonds away from the imaginary table. Where my finger is then is where you would want to aim the cue ball. So I'm picturing another imaginary ball, just like a mirrored image. I'm picturing another imaginary ball sitting right here. Now all I do is aim to make the one, this imaginary one, in that imaginary pocket. In other words, to hit this side of the ball, I have to aim on the close side of the imaginary ball. Okay? So let me get my imagination going here now. And that ball actually would be right there. So I'm going to aim at that imaginary ball just as if I were going to make it, right? And I hit the one, you see. So there's another system you can use. That works from any place on the table. If the ball were in the pocket, okay, you would make an imaginary table all the way over. So this is 4 diamonds, 1, 2, 3, 4, starting here. So the end of the imaginary table would come way out there. So I would aim in that imaginary pocket out there. Just aim right in that imaginary pocket, and the cue ball hits the ball in this pocket, you see. So there's another system that you can use for a 1-cushion kick shot. This is your cue ball. You'll notice it's blocked by an object ball. This is the ball you wish to hit. Now what you do is to make, in your mind's eye, an imaginary table that begins here and ends here. And you will notice in this particular example that the ball you wish to hit is 2 diamonds away from the pocket. In other words, it's in the middle of the table. So all you do then is picture an imaginary ball on this imaginary table that's exactly 2 diamonds away from either pocket in the middle of the table. All you do is simply aim to make this ball on this imaginary table, and of course it will rebound then into the ball you wish to hit. This is simply another example of the same thing, except the cue ball and the object ball are much farther apart. You will notice the object ball is in the pocket. So with your mind's eye, you picture the pocket on the imaginary table. You aim at that pocket, and that gives you the exact point of contact to make the object ball in pocket P. Now, there are systems that you can use where the ball is close to the cushion. The ball is here, and I'm blocked by another ball, like this. So I can't make the 3 straight in because of the 11 ball, as you can see. This is another imaginary ball that you use. You come over here and see how far the edge of your object ball is from the cushion. Then this is the inner edge. you figure the outer edge of an imaginary ball being the same distance on the other side of this cushion. See, here it's about, well, let's say 1.5 inches. So you figure another 1.5 inches right over here for the outer edge. So your ball actually, if this is the outer edge, would lie right in here. So all you do is try to make that imaginary ball that you've pictured in your mind's eye, and you hit the 3 ball, okay? Now, you can actually make the 3 ball, but it's a little different system that I use because it's a little bit more accurate. And what you do, you find the contact point of the 3 ball, which would be right here, you see. And you go from that contact point to the edge of the table with your thumb. You keep your fingers the same distance apart and come on back like this. Then you go from this point back through the cue ball. Aim through the center of the cue ball from that point. And you can see where your cue touches the edge of the table. Right there, where it goes through the edge of the table. And that's where you want to aim, right there. You want to aim to hit in front of that point. Now let's just see what happens if we can get close to making the 3. There we have it. See? Here's another little system I wish to teach you called a double kissback. Many of you know what a double kissback is. In other words, the angle is too much to try to bank the 5 into the 9 because you're going to get a kiss out there. But you can go right into the 5 like this, and it'll cause the cue ball to come back and make the 9 this way, you see, winning the game. Now, the trouble with that shot is it's too hard to figure, it's too hard to guess when you get on up the table like this. But here's a little system I invented myself. You make an imaginary line that runs right through the center of the 5 and the 9 ball. Wherever that line is pointing at the 5 is where you want to aim the center of your cue stick. Remember, from a previous lesson, that's the point of aim in this case. The point, not the point of contact. Cue ball is going to contact right over on the right side of that. The point of aim is what you want to use right there. Aim the center of your cue stick toward that point. We're going to take the 9 ball and place it maybe here, maybe the cue ball here. We're going to roll some more balls out on this side of the table, like this, with maybe the 1 ball in the pocket, perhaps. Now, I must hit the 1 first. If I don't, it's a foul, and my opponent can pick up the cue ball and place it in place on the table that he or she wishes. It's called 1 foul ball in hand. So it's very important I hit this ball, whether I make it or not. The way you would do that, you'll notice I cannot go 1 cushion and hit it because these balls are in the way. I can't go in this direction without trying to masse around it, and that's a low percentage shot. But I can go 2 cushions. This path is open. If you guess where to hit on this cushion, many times you'll miss a shot. So we're going to use a little geometry to show you how to figure this out. You start with the diamond you're closest to and count toward the ball you want to hit. In other words, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Now the table is exactly twice as long as it is wide. So we go to the short cushion, which is this one here, and we count half spaces. But you start in the pocket right here, always, as number 1. Remember, we had 5 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. You start here, you go in 1, and you count half spaces. 2, 3, 4, 5. Because once again, the table is twice as long as it is wide. 5 full spaces on the long side. You start at the cue ball and count away from the ball. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start in the pocket, 1, and count half diamonds. 2, 3, 4, 5. The same number. That tells you where you need to hit. Now, if you're going from a long cushion to a short cushion, which we're doing now, you aim in front of the chalk. However, if I were going from the short cushion to a long cushion, you aim through the diamond instead of in front of it. Here we're going from the long to the short, so we aim in front of the diamond. If we aimed through the diamond like this, you'd notice we'd actually hit here. So we want to aim where the cue ball hits in front of the diamond. Now the ball is rolling to my left, this way. So I would want to give it running English. That term means you hit it on the same side as the ball is running. It's running to my left. So I would give it left English, aim in front of the diamond, and that ball should go in the pocket. At least we should hit it. Okay? Now, let's try it again from up the cushion, farther. Let's say way up here. Once again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. We go to the short cushion, number 1 in the pocket, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The same number. That tells me where to aim. A little left-hand English, and that 2 ball should go in the pocket. Okay? Now, that comes in very handy if you have an on shot in 9 ball and you're blocked. Let's say that I have this shot here. The 3 ball and the 9 ball. The only trouble is I'm blocked by the 4 ball, let's say right about here. Excuse me, if I can hit the 3, I should have this game won. So we count to the ball we want to hit. Starting with the cue ball, we go 1, 2, 3 spaces. We go to the short cushion, starting in the pocket is number 1. We count half spaces. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That tells me where I need to aim, right where the chalk is. But I aim in front of the chalk with a little left-hand English, and that ball should go in the pocket. There we have it. This is another example of a 2-cushion kick shot. This is your object ball, this is your cue ball. And you want to try to make the object ball in the pocket in this case. So you find an imaginary point from point M, which is right in between your cue ball and your object ball, running through the pocket. You simply aim parallel to that line. Now once again, you must hit your cue ball dead center, but remember that the cushion is going to put English on the cue ball. So you must allow for that. So instead of aiming, as this diagram shows, you want to actually aim a little bit closer to the pocket to cut your angle a little bit short to allow for the English, because in reality, A would hit this point, rebound to this point, and in reality, it's going to go long because your second cushion is going to put English on the cue ball. So you must allow for that by, instead of aiming at this point, you aim a little closer to the pocket, an inch or so, and that will allow for the English that the cushion is going to apply to the cue ball. A 3-cushion shot is somewhat different. We have a situation like this. The smallest ball is the 3 ball. It's in the pocket. I have some more balls here blocking the path. Here's the cue ball right here. A 3-cushion shot is like this. That's 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's 3 cushions. Now, how would I figure that shot where I could make the 3 ball? Here's the way you do it. Firstly, this is the object ball. This is the cue ball. We have to find the object ball position number on the table. And here's the way you do it. You start at the far end. Whichever end you're standing at is called the head of the table. The other end is the foot of the table. So if I were here, this is the head, that's the foot. If I were over there, that would be the head, this would be the foot. So you start at the far end of the table. That's diamond number 1, Diamond number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's the same on both sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we know that the object ball is in position 8. You might say, so is the cue ball. But the cue ball has a different numbering system for the same diamonds. So for the cue ball, instead of diamond number 1, this is 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. So the object ball is in position number 8. The cue ball is in position number 5. Now the object ball has connecting diamonds. Diamond number 1 on this side of the table connects with number 7 on the other side of the table. Diamond number 2 on this side of the table connects with number 8 on the other side of the table. So in order to hit the 3, I have to come off of my connecting diamond, which in this case is number 2. 2 connects with 8. Now how do I know where to hit on the first diamond in order to come off the second diamond on the third rail? Here's the way you figure. You take your connecting diamond, which in this particular case is number 2. That's where I got to make my cue ball come off of. You take that connecting diamond and subtract from your cue ball position number. In this case, this is number 5. So 2 from 5 leaves 3. That tells you where to hit on your first rail. 1, 2, 3. You aim through the third diamond, not in front of it. Because when you're going from the short cushion to the long cushion, you aim through the diamond. With a little left English, because it's running to the left, and that 3 ball should go in the pocket. You noticed it came off of the second diamond here. Let's say that you have a shot on the short cushion. Let's say that I have a combination shot, the 5 and the 9 ball. But I'm blocked by these other balls. My cue ball is here again. All right? Now we already know how to figure the long cushion. Now we have to figure the short cushion for a 3-cushion shot. You stand at the head of the table. Over to your right in the pocket is number 2 in this case. Number 2. This diamond is number 3. The center diamond is number 4. And since the table is twice as long as it is wide, we go half diamonds from here on. That would be 5, 6, 7, 8. Once again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We already know that 1 connects with 7. We know that 2 connects with 8. Now we have to figure the short cushion. Here we go. 3 connects with 3. 4 connects with 4. 5 connects with 5. 6 connects with 6. 7 connects with 7. And 8 and 8, of course, is the same thing. Once again, 3 connects with 3. 4 connects with 4. 5 connects with 5. 6 connects with 6. 7 connects with 7. And 8 and 8 is the same thing. So my connecting diamond for this shot is number 3. 3 connects with 3. Where do I hit on the first cushion? Take your connecting diamond on the third cushion, which is number 3. Subtract that from your cue ball position number, in this case, number 5. 3 from 5 leaves 2. So you would aim at the second diamond on this first rail. 1, 2. You cue the cue ball again with running English. In this case, that's left English, a little bit above center, left English, okay? Now let's see if we can come close to making that 9 ball. Okay, now, we also need to figure the cue ball position number around the table. That was for the object ball, you see. And we already know that the cue ball, that's 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. Now to go on around the table, that would be 6, 7, 8. If we were on this side of the table, shooting the other direction, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say that I'm blocked by another ball here. My opponent's one ball. I have to find out the track that this shot is on. The track to the pocket is from the second diamond, my connecting diamond to the pocket. You remember that from before. Your next track is from the third diamond to this diamond. Now that shot happens to be in that track. So, what you would do, you have to find two corresponding numbers that will equal 3, because it's the third diamond. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So we would make a line, just aim like this. You can aim anywhere, see, but they have to equal number 3. That wouldn't be equal, see. That's 1 and, or excuse me, that's 5 and 1/8 from 3, 5 and 1/8 wouldn't equal 3. So we have to make another line here and keep going till we find the two corresponding numbers. Now, 2 and 1/8 from 5 and 1/8 leaves 3. So that, in other words, you subtract the first cushion from the last one here, and it has to equal your connecting diamond, which is number 3. So 2 and 1/8 from 5 and 1/8 leaves 3. So I'm actually aiming at 2 and 1/8 diamonds from the far end of the table. I'm actually aiming about here. They're divided into 8s. Now, the hardest part of that system is to memorize it. So I'm going to show you an easier system that I actually invented myself a few years ago that is much easier to memorize. Instead of having to know your connecting diamonds and to subtract one from the other, this is a much easier system and it works just as well. It's called the lineup system. Your first lineup is from the pocket to the third diamond. So anywhere along that line, you would aim through the third diamond. Anywhere along that line. Notice it came off of the second diamond, right? Okay, now, let's say you're over here, and you wanted to make this 6 ball, and perhaps you're blocked by the 8 and the 7 over here. So we're to the right of this first lineup. First lineup is pocket to the third diamond. We need to go to the right because the cue ball's over here. So we go one more diamond here and one more diamond there. The other diamond up there would be the pocket. This diamond would be here. That's your second lineup. The cue ball's still to the right, so we keep going. Another one here, another one here. There's your next lineup. Now we're getting very close here, see? Your next lineup, of course, would be here. So all we do is parallel our aim. You aim the cue ball right along the cue stick with a little left-hand English, and that 6 ball should go in the pocket. Okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's say that you're on the other side of the first lineup, away in here, down here someplace, right? Here's the way you figure. You start with the pocket, the third diamond. Move a diamond to the left this time, because we have to go to the left. Another diamond to the left there. There's your next lineup, right there. We still have to go to the left. We go to another one. We still have to go to the left. Now, that's right in line with the pocket. I can't aim in the pocket, So I have to come to this side. And to compensate, I give it more left English. A little bit more left English, and that ball should go in the pocket. Okay? That's a much easier system. I'm going to show you the lineup system for a 4-cushion shot. Say I have the one in the pocket. Your lineup is from the diamond closest to the cue ball, which would be this one, to the diamond farthest away from the cue ball, which would be this one. So if my cue ball were anywhere along that line, I aim in front of the diamond. Why? Because I'm going from the long to the short cushion. So when you do that, remember you aim in front of the diamond instead of through it. And that ball should go in the pocket. Now, if you're on the other side of the table, let's say right in here somewhere, you always start with the first lineup, which is the diamond close to the ball to the diamond farthest away. You go to your next lineup, which would be the center of the table to the pocket, and parallel my aim. Now, by knowing the table, I can see I'm going to have a problem here with this shot because I could scratch in the left corner pocket, the left side pocket. So in order to get around that pocket, I'm going to have to cut my shot shorter angle, and compensate by giving it a little bit more left English. So I'm going to compensate a little bit and get around that pocket and hopefully make that 4. Okay? Now, a 5-cushion shot, ladies and gentlemen, is different yet. I have the same ball in the pocket. Your lineup is from this pocket to the far corner pocket on the opposite side, which would be right over here in this line. If my cue ball is anywhere along that line, I can't shoot in the pocket. I have to come to the right side of that pocket. But I have to be careful about scratching, because if I give it left English here, I could scratch in this side pocket right there, see? So I have to go around the pocket. I know this is a new cloth, so as the ball goes around the table, it's going to slip a little bit. So I can aim for the ball to hit here, so I won't scratch, and make the 1. So I'm going to, instead of aiming here like I would do on an older cloth to make the cue ball come on this side of the pocket, since the ball goes long with a new cloth, I'm going to adjust my shot up to here, about almost a diamond from the pocket, not quite. Left English, and the 1 ball goes in the pocket. Now, if I'm on the other side of the table, let's say I'm over here, here's the way you would figure it. Start pocket to pocket. That's your first lineup. Move it a diamond to the right, your next lineup. Another diamond on each side there and here. Another diamond. Here's your next lineup. 1 more diamond, which would be right here. All I do is parallel my aim down the cue with left English, and that ball should go in the pocket down there. That's a 5-cushion shot. And that's really about all you can go with any type of accuracy at all. Another system, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to show you is this one. This comes up in every game of pool that you're going to play, 8 ball, 9 ball, straight pool, you name it. I'm going to take the 6 and the 8. I'm going to make what we call an on shot. An on shot means the 9 is straight in the pocket off of the 6. I'm going to block myself at the far end of the table by the edge of the 1. As you will notice, I cannot hit the 6 because of the 1. Now, a 9 ball, I have to hit the 1 first. If I can make that 9 in the same shot, I win the game. Now, the 1 is aimed right over here. So without a combination, I would have to bank the 1 and get shape over here. Here's another way you can do it all at the same time without having to bank the 1. You make an imaginary line that runs right through the center of the cue ball and the 1. In pool language, that's called your line of centers. Your second line is a 90-degree angle that runs through the middle of these 2 balls at a 90-degree angle with this line, like a cross. In pool language, it's called your tangent line. So your tangent line, in this particular case, would terminate about right here. Now that's about 15 inches on the left side of the 6, so whatever it is on one side of the 6, you move it the same distance on the other side of the 6, and that tells you where to aim right there. Right? Okay? Keep your eye on that spot. Okay, now there's another way of using that system when you're closer to the balls. You're going to set up the same shot. But I'm closer to the balls. When you're closer like this, you can use another system. What you do is picture 2 imaginary balls on the other side of the 1 and the cue ball. 2 1/4 inches in diameter. That's what the object ball and the cue ball actually are. So if you imagine 2 balls, the end of the second ball that you imagine, right? In other words, here's the first 2 balls. Here's the second 2 balls. So the end of that would be right here where my finger is. All you do is make an imaginary line from your finger to the ball you want to hit, and you aim halfway in between, which would be right here, okay? You hit the cue ball dead center and aim right here, and that 6 ball should go, the 9 ball should go in the pocket. There we go. Okay. So that's how you figure those 2 shots when they're close together or far away. Now, this was actually supposedly discovered by a collegiate champion by the name of Bob Jewett. I hate to take any credit away from Bob, and I don't mean to do that, but that was discovered years before that. As a matter of fact, my old tutor, Benny Allen, showed me that system in the late 40s, and so it was around before Bob Jewett discovered it. However, Bob should get the credit. It's named the Jewett system after him. And he really should get the credit because he rediscovered it and figured it all out himself. But Benny Allen actually told me that system years and years ago, back in the late 40s. Now, ladies and gentlemen, another system that I'm going to try to show you is how to bank a ball 1 cushion. You want to make very sure that the balls are very tight, because if they're not tight, you lose your kinetic energy from the cue ball to the first ball, because when that ball hits, if these balls are separated in any way, the balls will hit against one another like that, back and forth. But if they're all tied together, if they're frozen together, it makes it like one object, and you'll get a lot better break. So make sure that your opponent, if he or she is racking for you, make sure that these balls are very tight. They're all frozen together, you see. Okay? Now, that's not a bad rack. There's a couple there. They're not quite touching, but it's okay, right? So your kinetic energy, when you hit the cue ball into the rack, is going to be much greater. It's not going to lose energy between the balls as much. So the way you rack the balls is very pertinent. Now, the most important part of the break is to make a ball in the pocket. And from a statistical point of view, let me explain that to you. Let's say that you and your opponent are averaging, as an example, 2.5 balls per inning, right? You and your opponent. If you break the balls and don't make any on the break, statistically, you are behind from the very start 2.5 balls. If your opponent and you are averaging 2.5 balls, and you have the break and don't make any balls, statistically speaking, you're 2.5 balls behind already. The same way with your opponent. If you and your opponent are averaging, let's say, 3 balls per inning, and your opponent breaks and doesn't make a ball on the break, then he is statistically behind you 3 balls, right? So that's the importance of making balls on the break. Now, that's easier said than done. Now, the idea is to try to hit head-on into the object ball and draw your cue ball back a little bit, anywhere around close to the center of the table. The reason that is, it's against statistics. If you hit the front ball and cause the cue ball to go forward, you could end up at the end of the table with every ball on the table in front of you, which means you're going to have to, unless you got a ball right in the pocket, you're going to have to shoot the entire length of the table. However, if you make the cue ball end up close to the center of the table, then if you make a ball, you only have half the table to shoot at. And the balls are on both sides of the cue ball. Here, if they're down here, they're only on one side of the cue ball, if the cue ball sits here. If it's out in the middle of the table, they're on both sides. You have a greater choice of shots. So statistically speaking, you should try to get the cue ball anywhere in here, right? In order to do that, you want to start out with the cue ball close to the center of the table. Your kinetic energy is greater when you shoot directly into a ball. Now, you want to go off the spot. It'll make the ball jump a little bit. Just get it to the side spot. This is where you start out because your energy is greater. If you're not, however, making a ball on the break, move the cue ball over a little bit and try a different angle. If you're still not making them on the break, move it over some more. You can get clear over to here, clear over to the cushion. Eventually, if you're lucky, you will find a spot here we call the sweet spot. And that is the spot that you personally want to break from on that particular table. The sweet spot varies on different tables depending on the speed of the cloth, various things, how the balls rebound off of the cushion, and so forth. But start out at the center of the table, bend your arm, get your body into the shot. You see? Now, you see what happened? I made a ball, but look where my cue ball is. It's not in the center of the table. It's way down here. So the ball I made happened to be a stripe. You see any stripes that are good shots down here? There are none. The closest one is way down here. What if I had shot the same shot and my cue ball would have ended up somewhere where it was supposed to be, close to the center of the table? Now look, I've got a stripe here, a stripe here, a stripe here, a stripe here. I could even cut that stripe into the pocket. I'm in good shape, you see. But where I was down here, no good. Closest shot I had was clear down the table. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. Try to keep the cue ball close to the center of the table. Now, once you break the balls, you're going to have to figure out, let's put it back where it was, you're going to have to figure out which are the best balls for you to shoot. Now, even though I made a stripe, you can see that they are not the best balls to shoot. So naturally, I would go ahead and pick the solids, right? Because I don't have any ball that really will give me a lot of trouble. If I can make the 3 as an example, and for this kind of cut, I'm going to be way down in here. But I've still got the 7 or the 6, either one, that I can shoot. The 1 might give me a little trouble, but it should be no problem breaking the 1 out, you know, off of the 7 or the 6, either one of them. Now, the thing to remember is this. As you see your patterns and try to analyze which balls that you want to go for, immediately you look for trouble balls. If there is any way in the world that you can run the table and leave your opponent with a couple of trouble balls here, you're in good shape, right? So the only time you want to break out a trouble ball is if it's not your opponent. Leave your opponent any trouble ball that he or she has. All right? So the solids, of course, would be the ones to take in this particular case. Now, the only trouble ball I really have, it could be a trouble ball, would be the 1 and the 2. Anytime a ball is close to the cushion, it's considered a trouble ball. Always. If it's close to the cushion. Why? Because it's much tougher to get position on a ball closer to the cushion. You have to be more accurate. So it's still considered a trouble ball. So the first thing you want to do is get rid of your trouble balls as soon as possible. As soon as possible, right? You never leave a trouble ball if there's always exceptions to every rule, but normally you never leave a trouble ball if there's any way to get rid of it. So on this particular shot, I've got what we call some key balls right down here. If I should shoot the 3 ball and end up too far to make these, you still see that I could still get out of that mess with these balls, right? So you want to try to figure what's going to happen if you don't do right. See, the best thing to do was to shot easier and stayed right in here. But what if you goof up? You want to not just plan what would happen if you do the right thing. You want to plan on what would happen if you do the wrong thing. See, now, I still had balls down here, so I wasn't real worried about what was going to happen in here, because I can still get out of this, you know. In other words, you can run the 4 down, come over here on the 5. See, I should have been on this side really, but I'm still okay. If I'd have been on this side, slight angle, I could have come down on my trouble ball and gotten rid of it, see. So I think I'm still okay. See, still okay. But it would have been better if I hadn't had to kick off of that ball. And now, of course, I want to get rid of my trouble ball just as soon as possible and come down here for an angle on my 6, right? 6 or the 7, it didn't matter. Now, if I go to the other side of the 6, I could be in trouble, couldn't I? So I want to try to make the 6 and draw back into the 7, see, and stay on this side rather than being on the other side. And then, of course, it's a matter of cutting the 7 into here with just a little bit, just a little draw stroke where you're going to drift over into here, back up to here and here. Make your 7, or make your 1 in this pocket, draw back a little bit, and make your 8. There's your run right there. Right? So you have to analyze each table. Each time you break the table, you break the balls, a pattern forms. And you have to look for your trouble shots. You have to see the best way to run the table. Because, folks, this is the only sport at which, if you're good enough, your opponent never gets to shoot, never gets to participate. Think about that, if you're good enough. Any other sport, your opponent always gets to participate. But in this one, if you're good enough, your opponent never gets to participate. And if you run the entire table and don't get shape on the 8 ball, then the tables are turned and he has the advantage on you. The break for 9 ball, ladies and gentlemen, is basically the same. It's a different game. You have less weight behind the head ball in 9 ball than you do 8 ball. Consequently, the balls are going to roll faster than they do in a break in 8 ball. So the importance of the speed of the stroke in 9 ball is even more important than the speed of stroke in 8 ball. The idea is to get these balls traveling as fast as you possibly can. So you'd actually start out about the same way. The good players sometimes start out from the edge, depending on the player, because they have such powerful breaks that a few extra miles an hour doesn't really matter. But for the average person, start out close to the center because of the same principle. Your kinetic energy wants to go into the balls rather than at the side. And the only reason players break from the side like this, you have a greater chance of making this ball right here. You have a greater chance from the side, although you can't get as much power really into the break. But it's basically the same. Now, I noticed that my cue ball went forward again, and you see what happened? I made a ball, and it scratched. Now, if I'd have done right and come out into the center of the table, see, I made a ball, and I would have had a perfect shot on my 1 ball, you see. So you're beginning, I hope, to see the importance of not going forward after you hit the head ball. Come backwards into the center of the table. What would have happened if I scratched, the guy's got ball in hand anyway. But what would have happened if I'd have ended up here, you see? I'm blocked on my 8 ball. I would have been in perfect shape. I would have made a ball and been in perfect shape anywhere up here close to the center of the table. So once again, in the break, that's what you want to practice, is cue ball control. Get that cue ball to end up as close. Now, by the center, I'm talking about anywhere from here over to here. Anywhere around here would be considered a good shot. So you've got a pretty big zone that you can stay in here, you see. Okay? And then it's a matter then in 9 ball of just picking out your balls and running them off. So probably, here again, if you're making like 5 balls per inning, both of you, your opponent and you, are averaging 5 balls per inning, once again, if you don't make a ball in the break, you're 5 balls behind already before the game starts. You have to figure it that way because that's statistics. That's true statistics. And there's more things I could say on the break, but that's primarily what I wanted to get across to you. Is that the power of the break depends on the speed of the stroke, the speed of the ball, and so you players that aren't too big, 140 to 170, you want to use a cue for about 17 to 19 ounces right in there. You bigger players, more muscular, heavier, you want to use a cue, 20, 21 ounces is fine. You can use a heavier cue. But the smaller guys, they're defeating their own purpose if they use a heavy cue. Ladies and gentlemen, this chapter is probably the most important chapter of the entire course. course. Tens of thousands of people can show you how to shoot pool, how to hold the cue, how to stand, how to aim, etc. But almost no one can explain the mental aspects of the sport of pocket billiards. And this entire lesson is concerned with that aspect of playing pocket billiards. You've heard many times, if you've played pool for any length of time, that pocket billiards is a mental sport. And yet no one seems to want to explain to you what the term mental sport actually means. A large percentage of this sport is mental, as many sports are mental sports. And we're going to go into that aspect of playing pocket billiards in championship form. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the brain has two hemispheres, the left and the right. The right hemisphere, this has to do with any subjective matter. The left side of the hemisphere of the brain has to do with any objective matters. In other words, your left side is more or less your conscious mind. Your right side, your subconscious mind. Your right side of the brain cannot understand words unless they are associated with images. Sometimes the term that is used is imagery. And we're going to show you in a few minutes how that can help you in becoming a master pocket billiards player. A golfer, as an example, if he or she is good, will never think about the water hazard or the sand trap in front of the green. If you picture the golf ball falling into the sand trap or into the water, you are sending a signal to your subconscious. Your subconscious mind actually does not reason. That's the left side. The subconscious tries to do what you have pictured. If you picture the golf ball going into the sand, the right side of your brain is going to try to cause that to happen because that's what it thinks you want it to do. That's the picture it has seen. So never imagine the negative happen. Imagine the positive happening. Imagine the ball going over the water and the sand trap onto the green, close to the hole. That's the picture the right side of your mind has seen, the right side of your brain, and that's the results that it tries to accomplish by controlling your muscles. There are a lot of people that do not understand the power of the subconscious mind to make you perform correctly or incorrectly. We're going to demonstrate that to you by utilizing a piece of thread, a paper clip, and a piece of paper. We're going to take the paper and lay it down in front of us. We're going to draw a cross with a pen on this piece of paper. We're going to take our string and attach the paper clip to the end of it, I should say thread, and you place your elbow on the table like this. You bend your wrist over and let it relax and hang there like this. And then you adjust the string until between your thumb and forefinger, until the paper clip is about an inch off of the paper, right over the X. I'm going to prove to you, ladies and gentlemen, the power of the subconscious in controlling your body. I want you to ask yourself, while you're completely relaxed, your arm is completely relaxed over the X on the paper, ask yourself this question: which way is going to mean yes? Now, ladies and gentlemen, the paper clip will begin to move either up and down, like this, or back and forth, like this. One or the other is going to mean yes. Then ask yourself, after it begins to move in one direction, ask yourself this: which way is going to mean no? And stay there relaxed. Just keep asking over and over and over again. Which way is going to mean no? As you will notice, the paper clips begins to slow down. It will stop and begin moving in the other direction. Now, you know you haven't done this consciously. So what has made that paper clip change directions by you asking a question? You know you haven't done it consciously. Well, it's not spirits. It's not a ghost. It's your subconscious reacting to a question. By the way, when you ask the question, you must picture in your mind the actual event of swinging one way or the other. Also, you ask yourself, which is going to mean, I don't know the answer to that question. It will either be in a circle, one way, counterclockwise, or clockwise. And then after you have determined that, you ask yourself this question. I don't want to tell you the answer to that question. Now, the paperclip again will stop moving in, let's say, a clockwise direction and start moving the opposite direction in a counterclockwise circle. You know you haven't done it. You're not doing it consciously. Your subconscious is doing it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can do this with other people. They can ask you questions such as, how old are you? What day were you born? Now, the way they would have to do this is, if they want to know your age, they don't know it, they'll say, well, are you more than 21 years of age? Now, it'll start going either yes or no. Are you under 21? You know, yes or no. Are you under 22? And pretty soon it'll get to the right answer, and it'll go yes. If you say, are you 22 years old, and it starts moving yes, you know that person is 22 years old. And you can find out everything you want to know about another person and them not tell you one thing. You can also prove to yourself the power of the subconscious mind in controlling your muscles. And if you will do that little experiment, that little test, it'll help prove this to you. Because you must believe that the subconscious mind has a lot to do with controlling the muscles. Your subconscious, depending on the images that it sees, can make you miss a shot or get bad position, or make a shot and get good position. You must believe the power of the subconscious mind. Because once you believe it, you'll start feeding it the right information and trust the results of that information being fed to the subconscious mind. Now, ladies and gentlemen, worry, anxiety, fear, these are all basically the same things with regard to the results that are caused by these stress situations. Your body reacts each time you are afraid of something. each time you're anxious, each time you worry, the body reacts basically the same way. What it's doing is practicing for a possible dangerous situation. Practicing, practicing, practicing. Each time you fear, these same physiological effects take place. The same thing happens with worry, as I mentioned, anxiety. The body practices. In order to control these body reactions to fear, anxiety, and stress, you must consciously practice to overcome them. Practice, practice, practice. Players spend tens of thousands of hours practicing shots, getting position, the different phases and aspects of playing good pocket billiards. But how many hours in your life have you spent practicing the mental aspects of pocket billiards that are actually more important than the physical? If you'll answer truthfully to yourself, I believe that answer is going to be a very small amount of time that you've applied to practicing the mental aspects of the sport. So we're going to go over some of the methods that you use in practicing the control of your body over your mind. Or better yet, the control of your mind over your body. You begin to feel anxious before a game, unsure. Why is it that you are so afraid of playing an opponent? Because if you lose, you're not going to get the praise that you want. You perhaps will receive scorn from the audience or from your opponent. It's what I call the Dan Quayle syndrome. Now, you Republicans, I vote basically Republican myself. It's just a little joke there. But in other words, you want praise and not scorn. That's why you are so afraid of not doing well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's ways of controlling this feeling that you have of the unknown. The way of overcoming that is through practice again. Practice, practice. You must practice to relax. Now remember that the right side of your brain cannot understand words. It can't understand language. It can pictures, however. It also will form pictures with certain words if you practice to make the right side of your brain realize that the word is associated with the picture. So just saying to yourself, in the power of positive thinking, I will, I can win, I will win, that doesn't help you a bit. Unless you have practiced enough to make your subconscious mind realize that that word is associated with the picture of winning, the picture of doing. So you must practice that. Before a match, your muscles, become tense. Many, many times when I was a young player, before a big match, I would sit by myself, telling myself to relax, loosen up, get loose. Why did it work for me? Because I had spent thousands of hours when I wasn't playing pool. I'd just be getting ready to go to bed. I'd be lying on the couch, maybe watching a little TV. I would tense my muscles consciously, make them very, very tense. And then, as I tensed them, I would use the word no. And I would picture that as being a bad thing in my mind. What you're doing is training the right side of your mind, the subconscious, that having tense muscles while playing pool is not good. And then after saying no, I would say relax, and immediately I would let my muscles relax. And then I'd say yes. I would start with my left leg and work up, all the way up my left side of my body, down my right side of the body, doing the same thing with each muscle or each muscle group. Then I would tense the entire body and say the same thing again, same things. This is instructing my subconscious mind that a relaxed body is good, a tense body is not good. After you have done that a few thousand times, maybe your subconscious then will start getting the picture, and just before a game, you can say no, relax, get loose, any word you want to use, and your body's going to do that. Your mind is going to make your body do that. The same way as before a shot. If you get good at it, you feel yourself tense right before the shot, you can just say, get loose, or loosen up, or relax, or any word you want to use, and your subconscious will make your body do that. Then when you get loose, you say focus. Focus. And if you have practiced previously by using the word focus and force yourself to concentrate, and you associate concentrating with the word focus, your subconscious mind or your right side of your brain will help to control your muscles to do that, whatever is required. So ladies and gentlemen, you must practice the mental aspects of the sport the same as the physical aspects. Not just as much, you must practice them more, because pool is a mental sport as well as a physical sport. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a matter of retraining your mind. Habits are formed through practice. So if you've developed bad habits, either physically or mentally speaking, you must retrain your mind and body to perform good habits, both mental and physically speaking. So it does take a lot of practice. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel that this tape has been helpful, please tell your friends about it.